Hi, I'm Mads Purcell and I'm here at the Grafham Water Reservoir in East Anglia in the UK. I'm here with Anthony Glasgow, and today we're targeting sander. We're going to be using different techniques, soft lures and hard lures. But before I go, Anthony, I'd like to show, I'd like to show a few lures and a few techniques.
No worries.
So if you don't mind setting up the boat,
I shall do that, mate.
All right,
okay.
Thanks. We're targeting sander today. I'd like to show you some of the lures and the different techniques that we're going to be using. The first one I'd like to show you is what I call a technique jig and spin. For that, I'd like to show you different categories of soft lures that imitate fish. The first one I'm going to show you is like a loose body concept, where you have a loose body and you have a jig head, where you mount the loose body on the jig head. So when you do jig and spinning, you actually let the gravity help you fish the lure. So you throw it in and let it sink down towards the bottom. You lift and spin. So jig and spin. So as you can see, you cast out and you fish the lure through the water body up and down. And here it's very important that you tune your loose body lure together with your jig head to get the right depth and the right movement pattern. If you put on a too small jig head, your lure will go into a spiral. If you put on a very heavy one, the sink rate will be too fast and not imitating a bait fish or a fish trying to seek cover on the bottom. The great thing about jig and spin is that you fish all the way in. You fish both on the drop. You can feel the lure down to the bottom, and you also fish when you retrieve, going up in the water. Jig and spin is one of the most effective methods to locate the sander and even perch and many other predator fish. And jig and spin is just a fantastic way of fishing. To do jig and spin, I use a fishing rod called jig and spin. This one is a 10 to 30 gram Savage gear rod. And I use an Okuma reel with a thin braid. It's a adrenaline braid called spinning. So it's very, very silent. And I've got a fluorocarbon tippet. In this case, it's a 12 pound fluorocarbon tippet. And I've got a small little snap in the end, so I can easily change the weight of my head and the lure. So jig and spin is very effective. If you take a little bit bigger soft lure, bigger cannibal, I've added on a heavier jig head, and you can see that the bigger the lure, the heavier the head to get the same movement pattern and sink rate. And this has to do with the size of the paddle and the angle of the paddle on the different models you can get. So the cannibal lure is a fantastic soft lure for this kind of jig and spin. So again, you have a variety of colors and sizes of loose bodies. The other kind of lure that I will recommend for this type of fishing is like an integrated lure, where you have the hook already inside the body, and the weight is already predetermined to match the paddle tail. This one is the Savage minnow, and fantastic about the Savage minnow, it's got a little glow bead, not a rattle bead, a little glow bead in the tail to elevate a really good strike point. So let me just show you how perfectly this little minnow swims on the jig and spin. So it's actually swimming very good both on the drop and on the lift, and you see that erratic motion, how it's rocking and swimming. So this really imitates a little minnow, and fantastic lure for perch and sander and even trout. Again, the method jig and spin is really effective to fish and search for fish in the water body up and down. So here you have again the minnow. So the integrated hook has a fantastic swimming action. So you can see it's perfectly balanced using the gravity to swim down. And it swims away from the center line and doesn't go into a spiral, which is the whole secret behind these lures. So that was the minnow types. Another loose body type that's very, very effective for sander is the grub type. Grub is basically like a curled or switched tail. The savage grub is somewhat special though. Has a unique movement pattern, even at very, very slow speed. I have a full movement of the tail. And the savage grub is very, very popular amongst the serious sander anglers, and it's caught a lot of very, very big sanders, both on the jig and spin method, but also on controlled drift and vertical fishing. So this is the grub, the savage grub. Just to show you the bigger size as well. Little football jig head. Different jig heads also give different action. Like the slider jig head will slide the lure away from the center line on the drop, whereas this one, as you can see, is more of a stable movement. So that's the savage grub, and again, what's unique about it is the movement you have at very, very slow speed. So the lure basically fishes all the time, even on slow drift. So that's the grub. Again, it comes in a variety of colors and 3 sizes. Then I'd like to show you another method called drop shotting. Drop shotting is relatively new. So what you basically have is you have a drop shot and you have a hook tied directly to the line in a way that it stands out like so. So this drop shot right here is actually just held onto the line with a swivel that squeezes and holds the line in position, so I can move the lead easily up and down. And the great thing about this method is you can fish directly into the snags. You can rig this lure up to be weedless and snag free. So I can just cast that drop shot lure directly into a weedy area or a snagged area, and I can get a great movement of the lure in a fixed position above the bottom. You can use this for fishing in weeds, on snags, but you can also use it for a controlled drift or just drifting with the soft lures over the bottom. And the movement of the drop shot bumping off the bottom will transfer the movement to that soft lure like so. Also, just a little rock with a boat will give that fantastic effect in the lure. And this is the dying minnow. As you can see, I've rigged this one side down. The dying minnow is a bit different from many of the other of these type of minnow lures on the market. As you can see, it's got a symmetrical head, almost like a round shaped paddle, and that helps it to give it this fantastic movement. So it's actually designed to be fished side down. So you can also use that lure not only for the drop shotting method, but you can actually fish that on a loose jig head as well. And again, I mount it side down. By mounting it side down, I get a fantastic movement again because of that flat side. Let me just show you how that moves in the water. So this is the dying minnow, rigged side down. And you can see just the slightest little touch from the rod or the boat moving will give you an incredible lifelike action. So with a heavy jig head, you can actually fish this 30 feet down on a thin braid and have this kind of movement right in the face of the sanders. So this is the dying minnow. In the dying minnow series, there's also color patterns as we call cannibal colors. And they have small fish inside that sends out a special flash. Let me just show you the cannibal color in the dying minnow series. And here you can see the incredible flash from that small minnow inside the dying minnow. That can be really, really deadly on many species. So this is the dying minnow fished on a jig head. One method that we're going to be trying today is this method of vertical fishing that is very popular in Europe. Basically, it's a controlled drift. You can either use your drogue or electrical engine and simply drift and control your boat right on top of the fish. So you find the fish on the echo sounder, and then you actually just take a heavy jig head or any jig head that will get you to the desired depth, and then you just move the lure very, very slightly, and it's actually the boat, the movement of the boat that's giving the speed to your lure. So you make that controlled drift over the area where the sander is, and they just attack that lure, boom, and you get it immediately. And what you need to do that kind of fishing is lures that has a very, very good movement pattern, even at slow speed. You need a thin braid, so there's no water resistance on your line, so you got direct contact all the way down. Personally, I prefer to use a fluorocarbon trace to get the best presentation, but many people will fish the braid directly down to the lure. Another model I'd like to show you, designed for this controlled drift or vertical fishing, as we call it in deeper water, is this recoil. I've mounted that on the new Savage Gear Blade jig head, and there's several advantages for this kind of lures. First of all, you can get it down deep very, very fast. And second of all, you can have this motion of the lure where it will flash its side. So even at a very, very slow drift or tiny, tiny movement with the rod, I can make a big flash down there deep, right in the face of the sander. Just a tiny little movement of that tail in the school of the fish or in the face of the fish, and they'll attack it. So this is the recoil. We're going to try using that today as well on deep water. Same thing goes for the transformer shad. The transformer shad has got like this square paddle tail, so this one will rock gently and give a lot of vibration, and again it's got this deep belly, so it will make quite a big flash. So on a controlled drift you will have that tail moving and the whole lure rocking from side to side, and that on certain days that just drives the fish crazy. So this is the transformer shad, but I'm going to pack this up now and let's get out there. So right now we're getting close to a place called the North Tower, where there is supposed to be a lot of structure, and it's an area where the locals have caught quite a bit of sanders and seen a lot of sanders over the years. So what we're going to do is just spend a little bit of time with the echo sounder to get to see the bottom here and how the structure looks. So the echo sounder is very important for when you want to locate the sander. It's very difficult to find the fish on a big reservoir like this without some sort of an echo sounder. And this is a really good echo sounder I've got here. What I'm looking for basically is deep drop-offs, structure, and of course the occasional bananas. The swim bladder is actually what is giving you the signal on the echo sounder. And the swim bladder is air. So the echo comes off that air inside the fish, and that will very often be like a banana-shaped figure on the screen. Right here I'm looking for, there's supposed to be a pipe that runs from one tower to the other tower. We'll probably be able to see it. We passed it before, and we can see that pipe here on the bottom. And it's silted up on one side and it's quite open on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time just to use my echo sounder to look for structure and look for fish before we start fishing. Here we can see some fish right there. So I'm just going to pop my jig right down on them. It's very obvious here that there's something on the screen here. So I'm just going to take that lure all the way down, right there. So now it's down on the bottom. So I'm just going to swim that lure Make sure I'm right down there with him. See that thing on the sounder? It can be some sort of weed, it can be structure, but it can also be fish. Whether it's sander or it's prey fish, it's hard to tell. The only way to tell basically is to try to fish on them. So what you see here is you can see the different lines, that the bottom is right, it's quite hard here. The red line here tells you that it's a very hard line down here. The second echo down here is like a repeat echo. So that doesn't really have anything to do with the water body. The water body is here. You can see there's definitely something going on down there. We've got some sort of, it could be prey fish, it could be weed. It's really hard to tell yet. So this rod I will fish as a dead rod. I'll just have that little spinning rod ready. So as we can see, the depth is very, it's actually quite stable here, around 9 meters. There's definitely some prey fish or some structure here going on. Yes, we just passed that drift on the North Tower here, and Anthony, he just dropped that cannibal lure on a banana we saw on the echo sounder, and immediately the lure was hit on the way down. So about 8 meters down, over 10 meters of water, it just engulfed that lure, and that is a nice looking sander right there. I'm just gonna use the net on that fish, hang on.
It's a good fish, mate.
That is a nice fish.
Good fish.
Just take your time.
So that drag doing all the work, mate?
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
That's that jig and spin rod. So here you'll see a nice size sander come up with that cannibal lure just engulfed. There we go. Right on, mate.
Right
First
on,
sander
dude.
of the day, right there on the cannibal lure. Let's have a look at it. Let's put him on the mat. Oh, that's a nice fish.
And this is where the advantage of this mat comes in.
Yep.
Obviously, we've got to protect the fish.
So that was perfect work on that lure. Right there, the cannibal lure. Super, Anthony. That's a beautiful fish. And that fish has got to be about 8 pounds, I'd say. It's a nice size.
Like I say, mate, that took that so hard right on the
Yep,
drop.
right on the drop. That's a beautiful fish. Right on the cannonball. So, third drift, and we had the first fish. So let's try again. So when we pull up a sander from 30 feet of water and we want to release it safely right after, there's a big chance that this fish will have its swim bladder full of air, so it can't get back down because of the pressure difference from the 30 feet. So the way we release them is actually to throw them head first into the water. It looks quite dramatic, but this way you actually have the fish engulf a lot, you know, it blows out a lot of air, and releases a lot of air from the swim bladder, and it goes down into the water about 1 meter, and very often you'll see that fish will just survive and swim perfectly down. Normally when you would release a pike or another fish that wasn't caught in 30 feet of water, you just release it very, very careful and let it swim gently away. But for the sanders pulled up from that kind of depth, you actually rocket them into the water so you can get some depth on them. One thing that's very important for sander catch and releases, especially in warm water, that you got to release them quite fast and that they can't take a lot of time up from the water. So that's what it's all about, successful releasing of these sanders. Let me just show you how to do it. So this one is fresh alive. I just hold on to that fish like so. So it actually goes head first into the water, and I just give it speed like that. That one made it, no problem. So Anthony, let's give it one more try.
Thank you.
Yep, there we go, right there. Just hit it right as I dropped it down. Decent fish for sure. There we go. So, seems we found a nice lure. That's great.
Into a fish, mate?
Yeah, I'm right in there. It just hit that cannibal on the drop. That's really nice. Just gonna, may not be quite as big as the first one, but really great fishing here with the cannibal lures. Wow, that's great. Come on. Would you mind passing me that net? There we go. Here he comes. It's a smaller one. Thank you. And there we go.
Yes. Well done, mate.
One more on the cannibal.
Brilliant. That's what it's all
let's
about.
Just put him in the boat. Smaller fish, nonetheless a good one. See how that cannibal just sits there. Just pull that out. So let me just show you that. The sander's got impressive eyesight. As you can see, it's got that special luminous glare about it, so it really can pick up the light and see a lot of things, even though it's very, very dark down there. It's got this sensor system in the sideline here, so it can really detect any movement. And then you can see these Dracula teeth. It's got these gripping teeth, not like the pike, totally different, but this one just chews onto its prey and actually grabs it. This one, I just pulled this one up from about 30 feet, so I'm going to catapult him back just to make sure that it goes down deep. So here we go. And he's gone. See all them bubbles? Just keep pulling up from that. So it's just releasing a lot of air from the swim bladder, and you make sure that thing goes down. All right.
Brilliant.
That was two. 2 drifts, 2 fish. So we're definitely on to the right lure and the right location. Should we give it another try?
Let's do it, mate.
All righty. Oh, perfect cast right there. Perfect cast. So it seems that we've triggered some feeding spell or something with the first 2 fish we caught. Definitely the school is on the move. I've just lost another fish on the first drop here. So we can also see on the echo sounder that some of the prey fish have left the bottom, basically, are starting to make round balls, starting, you know, to ball up like that, where you've got what seems to be sander underneath chasing them. So it looks very good right now, the conditions. Oh, there was a little take right there. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Just had that, hammered it. Oh, I lost him. Ah, there's one for Ant right there. That's a good fish. Good, Ant. Just keep going now. There's several. Now look at the bananas here. See that? There's them big fish right there we're on. Right there. You just keep them lures dropping. So this is really, really good with a cannibal lure. We had a double take right there. Unfortunately, I lost mine. Tell you what, Ant, I'm just going to take one cast on the other side here while you play that fish.
No worries, mate.
I've got the net ready for you, Ant. That was really a nice take right there.
Feels a smaller one, this, mate, from before, but they all count.
They certainly do. So we actually had 3, if you notice that, we had 3 contacts right there. There you go, Ant. It's actually a nice fish. Oh, there you go. There's the net for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good fish. Oh, there's one for me right here. Right on the drop. Come on. And this one is putting up some fight. This is just great. So we're using this thin adrenaline spin here on the cannibal lures. And we just found a very active school of sander here, chasing prey fish. Wow. Are you ready with that net, Mr. Anthony Glasgow? Here we go. It's not that big. It's about the same size. Let me just put them in a net. Oh, it's just a baby, actually. There we go. So, right there, we had 4 contacts on drift number 4 on the North Tower. Let's just show us what we got here. Just get hold of it. That's what it's all about. So, vertical jigging and jig and spin for sander with soft lures. Are you enjoying it, Anthony?
Loving it, mate.
That's great.
Brilliant.
Let's put them back.
Okay, dude.
And let's just catapult them back. That's good. Here's the other one. There comes all the bubbles. There you go, mate.
Thank you.
Oh, there was one right there. Oh, that's a small one. Could be a perch, this. Just gonna back us off a bit from that tower. Just gonna back us up. Here we go. Oh, that's a big perch right there. Beautiful. I just felt that was a perch, the way the shaking of the head. Great. So that's another very, very effective way to get the big perch, is with these soft lures. Oh, there we go.
Nice perch, mate.
That's a nice one. It's about, let's say about 600 grams. It's less than 2 pounds, but really, really beautiful. So there's really a lot of action going on down there. Beautiful with a nice perch. This one we don't have to catapult back. They don't have the same tendency to pop up. So I'm just gonna put him right back. I'll put him right back here. There you go. And there's a lot of fish down here now, so on that same drift, we're just gonna try again. So we've got both sander and perch just stacked up here on that big ball of bait fish. Just gonna give the hot spot a little break here. We've had 6 successful drifts over it, and we've had contact with fish every time. So while we give that a little pause, I'm gonna show you how to do the drop shot rig and a few other bits and pieces. So for the drop shot rig, it's quite simple to tie. I take in this case I'm using a 12 or 15 pound fluorocarbon, and this fluorocarbon is Prologic's Spectrum, which has this color that is very, very difficult to see in the water. So take about 1.5 meters of that, cut that off, and I'm going to use a little offset hook. So this is a Savage Gear offset hook, and about 1/2 meter up, I'm going to make a little loop that I pass through the hook and then tie a knot. The knot is called a Palomar knot. So I tie that knot and I take it back over the hook bend, like so. And then I tighten down that knot. Like so. And when it's all tightened down, I decide that the long end goes up to my braid from the fishing rod, and the short end goes down to my drop shot weight. So I take the short end and hold the hook like so and put it in from that angle. So I create like a down force from the lead, so the hook will actually stand out from the main line. So every little movement will be transferred to that little soft dying minnow I'm going to put on that hook. Then I tie this on to my braid, and in this case I prefer to use a grinner knot. So it's a double grinner knot to tie those two lines together, the thin braid and the fluorocarbon. The drop shot weight is mounted in a way so it can actually be pulled off in case you snag. You can buy drop shot weights especially made with this kind of swivel that will allow you to squeeze the line in, or you can make them yourself. Let me just show you how to make them yourself from it's kind of a diamond swivel. This is a Prologic's Specialist brass sinkers that makes a nice sound when you click it onto the bottom and you hit hard stuff. I take a pair of pliers and then I take the top third of that diamond swivel and I squeeze that down to form this little twitched part where I can catch my line on the drop shot rig. Squeeze that a little bit more to make sure it actually holds the line. This way, I just take the drop shot rig here, the line that is below the hook, I pass that through the swivel, like so, and then in the desired depth above the bottom or above the structure that I want to fish my lure, I just pop the line into the swivel like so. So it's actually sitting there. So if this one gets snagged, I just pull the line straight out with a jerk and I retrieve my hook and my lure. So this is basically how to tie a drop shot rig. Very, very simple and very, very efficient. And you can see the downforce from that lead, how that holds the hook in position, just like so. Very effective. There's two ways you can then hook your dying minnow onto that hook. Let me show you how. One very simple way is that you can make it weedless or semi-weedless. You just take the dying minnow and you take the hook straight in front of the eyes, take that through the lure like so, and you pop that up on the offset shank and you put the lure in a position. And again, you can see I hook this belly up or belly down. I put the hook straight through the side, and then you can see that the hook is really, really accessible. So when the sander attacks the lure or the perch attacks the lure, it gets hooked immediately. So that's one way of hooking it. Another way of hooking it, especially if you are actually fishing your drop shot as a spinning rig, you cast it out and you retrieve it. Maybe you want a little more vivid action to that lure. You actually put the hook in just behind the eye and then just have the tip come out like so. So the lure is actually given even more movement in the water and a little bit away from the line. And this way, when the fish attacks it, it's also hooked immediately on the tip here. You can also make that very snag proof by not having more than just a tad of that little tip sticking out like so. So that's the drop shot rig. Quite simple and very, very easy to tie, and has a million uses for different kinds of fishing, especially for sander fishing and for perch fishing, where you fish vertically, you fish right down on the school, or you have to fish very close to a structure, or as in this case, a pump tower. Then this rig can be very, very effective. So that's the drop shot rig. One very easy way of transporting and holding the different traces for the drop shot is in Prologic's rig roll. This rig roll allows you to just roll up different pre-tied rigs for drop shotting. You put that into that little slit, and then you just roll this up. You put your drop shot hook into the side of the EVA, like so, and you roll the rest of the pre-tied rig up, and then you secure it in that little slit. It's a nice and neat way of holding different drop shot rigs. You can use different diameters of fluorocarbon depending on what kind of fish you're fishing after, and you can even insert a small piece of subflex wire from the hook and 20 to 30 centimeter up the trace in case there's a lot of pike. Drop shotting can also be very, very effective for pike, but it's especially effective for the sander and for the perch. Different types and shapes of leads will give you different action, different weights as well for presentation. My favorite are these brass sinkers here. They make this lovely clicking sound when they jump off the rocks on the bottom. So that was a little bit about how to rig up very effectively the drop shot rigs. One thing I'd like to mention is that we in Savage Gear have a whole program of easy accessible soft lures, some of them even targeting different species. This is the perch and crappie kit, where we've made a selection of chosen colors and lures that are ready to fish. And on the back side you've got different information about the different lures and how to fish them. So in this range we also have the family packs of the different colors. This one is very, very effective for sander and for perch. The minnow kit. We've got the grub tail kit, we'll be using that in a little while. And we've got, again, the small grub kit, very, very effective for many fish, trout, sander, perch. So a good and easy way to start with the soft lures is to buy a kit where you get different colors and different models, and then you're on your own. This is just ready to fish, just tie it on. So that was a little more on the practical side. I suggest now the wind has picked down a little bit, dropped down a little bit, that we go back up and take another drift. We've given it about half an hour's pause now, and let's see if we can get another big fish. That feels like a really decent sized perch, this is. I'm just gonna back my colleague away from that place while I try to control a big perch right under the boat here. This seems to be a nice sized perch. Wow, look at that perch coming up here. Look at that perch. Yes, sir. That's a nice perch. Short. Wow, right on the cannibal again. Nice perch. That is a nice perch. Got entangled pretty well. One more time on the cannibal. Beautiful perch. Just gonna put him back. There we go. Oh, that is a nice sized perch, I think. That really feels like a good perch. So again, the jig and spin method from drifting boat. Yeah, that could feel like a really, really nice perch. A lot of head shakes, quite heavy. Come on. Yeah, that is a big one. There you go. There is our dream perch right there. Thank you very, very much. Wow. That was a nice sized perch right there on the cannibal. Why? That's a specimen perch. Wow. So beautiful. Nice fish. Yeah. As you see, that is 1.3 kilos. That is a nice perch. What a beautiful fish. That is a beautiful fish. Okay, we put her back over here. Okay, bio stripey. There she goes. Thank you very much. There's well another done, prize.
Well done. Brilliant.
So I suggest that we go up and do a drop shotting technique and try maybe the recoil and the transformer shad to see if we can pick up some more fish. So I just cast that drop shot rig just under that tower there and just nailed it 2 or 3 times, and a big perch just came out and hammered. It does feel like a really good perch. I'm not sure, but it just hammered that dying minnow just under the structure there. It does feel like a really good perch. I'm just gonna put on the engine here to really break us up in the wind here. We're moving quite fast. I want to lose this fish. And that was a good one. Here we go.
Good fish, Mads.
It feels like a really good perch.
Good
a lot
perch.
of head shaking, a lot of weight.
I'm gonna get the net for you,
down
mate.
and grab the. Can you give me that net, Anthony? If this is a perch, it is a perch, and it's big, and it's big. Look at that dying minnow there. Wow. Even bigger than the other one. Thank you. Yes, big perch on the drop shot. Woo! Great, Anthony. That is a big fish.
Perca fluviatilis.
Great. Dying minnow.
Well done, mate. That's a
Wow,
good
put
fish.
that on the mat. Let's have a look at that fish.
Again, it's important to have a mat when you're fishing for stuff like this.
That's, whoa, that is serious. That is a serious perch. Woo! That's what it's all about right there. So we've had really good fishing today. Drop shotting and jig and spin. That's just fantastic. Beautiful perch. And again, you see that rig. If you give that some oxygen, I'll just explain about it. What I did, I just rigged up that lure like so, and I fished it all the way in onto that tower, right in there in the snags where I can't get a normal lure, and I just jigged that a few times under that tower, and bam, that perch came out and took it. Really, really good and effective method when you're fishing close to a tower like that. Super. Let's measure that fish and put her back.
That's a really big perch,
That is
mate.
a nice perch, that is.
Again, on a method that's probably never been used on here, mate.
Let me just find that. Yeah, that is a regular 45, actually even 45 and a half. And we're gonna leave that 45. That is a beautiful fish.
Well done, mate.
Thanks. And Anthony, you want to come and verify this?
Yes.
I reckon it's around 175, right?
175, 176.
176, and you take 360 grams away from that. So that's 1.4 even. That's very close to a 3-pound perch. That's a nice fish. Let's put her back. Wow. So Anthony, that's been a really, really enjoyable day. That was a lot of fun.
Brilliant, mate.
So we did a lot of jig and spin with the cannibal lures.
Yep.
We had some really good sander action. And then we had some fantastic perch action on the drop shotting.
Yep.
Using the dying minnow, fishing it on the drop shot really, really close to them nasty snags over there.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
It was brilliant, mate. Learned a lot from these methods from the continent, mate. Been brilliant.
Yeah.
Really brilliant.
Soft lure fishing is so fun and so enjoyable, and it's very, very effective.
Yep.
Especially as you can see, we spent quite some time on locating the fish.
Yeah.
So location, and then fine-tuned presentation that will get you them fish right away.
Exactly, mate. Yeah.
So that was really enjoyable.
I loved
Thank
every
you for
minute
a good
of it.
day's sport.
Thank you. Brilliant. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.